is my channel, The Fancy Hat Lady Reads. I'm wearing one of my fancy booktube hats, and this is a big old book haul. And I know, unfortunately, my cute little vine lights are dead, so I'm going to have to either replace them or get rid of them or get used to them just being silly little fake vines with no lights. I don't know what to do. I have not done a book haul for any of the books I have bought so far in 2025, and if I wait any longer, I'm just not even going to be able to film the video because I will have lost track of all of the books. My last book haul, I think, technically went through January of 2025, although I did not actually buy or acquire any books in January, but that was my cutoff. So this is technically February through September. I'm not including October. I have already bought books in October, however, I'm not done buying books in October. So I'm not including October in the big old book haul. I have a few categories of books here based mostly on like where and when I got them. There is some Venn diagram overlap between these categories, so the separation is not, it's imperfect. I'm going to start here with this stack of books that were anticipated 2025 releases for me that I either pre-ordered or bought as soon as they were released. And I think this is the only stack of books that contains any that I've already read. So I'm gonna start with the books I've already read. Firstly, I have two Katherine Addison releases, both in the world of the Goblin Emperor. The Tomb of Dragons is the third and final book in the Cemeteries of Amal trilogy, which I read in its entirety last month. And then The Orb of Cairado is a Subterranean Press novella that is more or less a standalone in this universe. This overall fantasy world universe is now called The Chronicles of Osreth. I am not sure why, but having now read all of these books in relatively short succession, I did my reread of The Goblin Emperor back in August. I think I could now do a video on these. Do you want a video on these? I thought the next series video I was going to do was my Books of the Raksura video, but I have been procrastinating that for so long. So let me know in the comments, do you want a Raksura video first? Or do you want the Katherine Addison video first? Let me know. Now, I said I was starting with the books I've already read, and I'm already taking a detour because in the same Subterranean Press order with The Orb of Cairado, I also got a copy of The Shadow of the Ship by Aliette de Bodard, which is the Shuya Universe novella that came out last year. I've still got this in the protective packaging that it comes in, and I will keep it in there until I read it. I would like to read this sooner rather than later. I would like to have already read it by now, but I'm not doing well staying on top of the books that I buy at the moment. I have, however, read The River Has Roots by Amal El-Mohtar. I gave this 4 stars. It is a very me type of book. It's a retelling of the Trois Sisters with a very whimsical storytelling style. Exactly the sort of thing that is kind of a guaranteed win for me. And then one of the many books that I am, in theory, currently reading is Among Ghosts by Rachel Hartman. I am actually pretty close to the end of this. I will almost certainly finish this in October because ghosts, it feels seasonal. But I've kind of had this on the back burner, reading a little bit of it slowly between other books for a while now, and I think part of that has to do with the fact that this is a plague book, and I did not know that before I picked it up, and I was not quite prepared. But this is more sort of lower YA as opposed to her other books that have felt more mid to upper YA. It's set in the same world as her other books, but takes place sometime beforehand and is unrelated plot-wise. Other new releases and pre-orders that I have not read yet. You know what would be really perfect for October spooky season? The Crimson Road by A.G. Slatter. This one's got, like, vampire things in it. It's one of her Sourdough Universe novels. Will I read things this October that are seasonally appropriate? I hope so, but I'm running out of time. The other thing I've got that would be really great if I wanted to do seasonal reading for the end of October is The Bewitching by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. This is one of her more horror-ish books, and it's multi-generational and it's got witchcraft. It sounds great. I've been hearing great things about this. Realistically, one of my highest priorities to read right now is Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales by Heather Fawcett. This is the third and I think final book in this series. I would love to just finish the series and like be on top of it. Like a normal person. In case you can't tell, I am not feeling on top of it in my reading life right now. I also have A Letter from the Lonesome Shore by Sylvie Cathrall, which is the second book in a duology. I read the first book. I enjoyed it. If I read the second book, I'll be done with the series. Wouldn't that be great? And then my last two books in this stack that were pre-orders, this one is The Gate, the Girl, and the Dragon by Grace Lynn. And like, I've been a little snarky here, but I want to be deadly serious. I think I would really like to get back into reading some more middle grade. Back in the day when Grace Lynn released her first like loose companion trilogy of middle grade novels, Where the Mountain Meets the Moon and then the two others that came after that, I really loved those. So I got so excited to see that she was releasing another middle grade fantasy book. It got these sprayed edges. It's beautiful. I have not been reading much middle grade in the last few years. I feel like maybe the time is coming again for me to start reading middle grade. And then I have Hemlock and Silver by T. Kingfisher, also with sprayed edges, just solid color though, not like stenciled like the other one. This is a Snow White retelling, and it would probably also be a good spooky season read. I just want to show you, in case you haven't seen, that it has these lovely end papers. Ooh, I hadn't noticed that the cover has like a quote or something on it with the mirror frame. That's very nice. My next stack here is other things I've bought new at bookstores near me. These first two books I bought at one of my local bookstores that was going out of business. I was really, really sad about that. I got there like when their closing sale was kind of wrapping down and the shelves were pretty picked over at that point, but I still wanted to buy books. I bought two books. One of them was, this is one of my Venn diagram things I mentioned earlier, a new anticipated release, and that was Murder by Memory by Olivia Waite, which is a sci-fi murder mystery of some sort. I have not read it. And then another book that they did have that I grabbed was this 10th anniversary edition of Who Fears Death by Nnedi Okorafor, which is one of her books that I have not read. I do like the look of this anniversary edition. I know this is a very dark book. I like dark books sometimes. Sometimes. I have to be in the right mood. And then I got these 4 books from 2 other bookstores on Indie Bookstore Day, because I went on a bit of a shopping spree on Indie Bookstore Day. So I have Lake of Souls, which is the short fiction collection by Leckie. I am personally shocked that I haven't read any of this yet. The title story here was nominated for the Hugo Award in the novelette category, and I just didn't read the novelette category this year. I thought at least I was gonna read that first story this summer, and wow, it did not happen. Some of these stories are unrelated to her previous fiction. Some of them take place in the Imperial Ratch universe, which I've read all the published novels in the Imperial Ratch universe, okay? I am caught up on there. But then some of them are from the universe of the Raven Tower, which I desperately want to read, have wanted to read for like longer than I've had any of Ann Leckie's other books on my TBR and still have not read. And then I also got this copy of Wondrous Journeys in Strange Lands by Sonia Nimr, which I had become aware of over the last couple years because of people signal boosting books by Palestinian authors, and that's what this is. It is in translation. The translator is Marcia Lynx. I think this is a folklore-inspired historical quest journey coming-of-age story, perhaps. The way I've heard this described makes me think this is a book I would enjoy. And then at the second bookstore I went to, I bought 2 more books, one new, one used. The used book is this copy of Poison Study by Maria V. Snyder. This is one of those older fantasy series that I was under the impression these were YA. I don't know if they're still being published as YA. I'm not familiar with this imprint and what they do. But these are like the newer editions of these books, and I got a used copy. This is the first one. This is a series that people talk about still, like, really fondly years later. Like, I should have read these back when I was in high school, and I just didn't. I missed out on them, and I want to catch up. And then the new book I bought, not a new release. It's a backlist title, but it's not a used copy. This is The Devourers by Indrid Das. I read and really loved his novella, The Last Dragoners of Beaubazar. I know this is much darker. Again, like Who Fears Death, I know this is a really dark book, but from an author I know I like. If I'm in the right mood, I think I could really appreciate it, but I have to be in the right mood. But now that I have a copy, if the right mood strikes, I won't have to, like, go to the library looking for it. And that increases the chances that I will ever actually read it exponentially. I'm moving on now to this stack of used books because at the top of it is this used copy of Magic Study, which is the second book in that Maria V. Snyder series, The Chronicles of Ixia. The first one was Poison Study. After I got the used copy of the first one, I saw a used copy of the second one at a different store and thought, well, I will grab this one. So I have both of these. And they're even the same editions. They're these newer editions. I suppose this next one could have gone in the list of books I've read at the beginning because this is a book that I have on Kindle but did not own a print copy of. This is Artificial Condition by Martha Wells, the second Murderbot novella. I have both the e-arc of this that I originally read and a finished ebook edition, but I didn't have it in print, and now I do. I don't remember when I bought these next two, but I don't think I've hauled either of them yet on this channel. First, I have The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson, which I have heard is just great. This is like multiverse science fiction. This is a Book of the Month Club edition. I did not know that this had been a Book of the Month Club book. I don't own any Book of the Month Club editions of anything except maybe this. I can't think of a single other book that I own in a Book of the Month Club edition. And then the last of this stack of used books is The House Witch Volume 1 by, I'm pretty sure that this is a pen name. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I'm going with Delimhatch. There are 3 volumes of this, plus spin-offs. They all have, absurdly high average Goodreads ratings, which could be good or bad. It's about a house witch who works as a cook for a royal family in this fantasy kingdom, and shenanigans ensue. And then the next big stack of things I have is everything that I got in Seattle in August when I was there for Worldcon. I bought things at the convention, I bought things at bookstores outside the convention, I got things from the freebie table at the convention, so there's a lot here. So starting with things I bought at the convention. These are both also new releases, so they could have gone in that earlier section of the video. But first is Mad Sisters of Essie by Tashan Mehta. This is newly published in the US, but I believe it was previously published in India. It has an incredible cover, and it looks like a very weird, wonderful fantasy experience that intrigues me incredibly. And then the other one is The House of Illusionists and Other Stories by Vanessa Fogg. This is from Interstellar Flight Press. They had a booth at the convention. This was not yet officially released at the time of the convention. I don't know if it has been yet. I don't know if it's available to purchase other places, but they had copies of it for sale at Worldcon, so I grabbed it. And then things that I got at the Freebies Lounge, I picked up 4 things at the Freebies Lounge. 2 of them are Small Beer Press books that are short story collections. The first is Kindling by Kathleen Jennings, whose art I really love, and I don't believe I've ever read any of her fiction. And then the second is The Privilege of the Happy Ending by Kij Johnson. I remember reading the title story of this collection. I remember that I liked it. I don't remember what it was about. And I don't think I've read any of the other stories in this. Notably, this contains the novella, The Dream Quest of Velvet Bow, which is a Lovecraftian thing that was one of like the very early Tor.com novellas that got a lot of hype at the time. I never read it because I didn't want to do my Lovecraft research to understand it. I'm more likely, I think, to read it in a collection than on its own. And then I picked up this copy of Finders by Melissa Scott, who is an author who has been publishing for decades. She's written lots of SFF, largely kind of under the radar. I think most of what she writes is queer. This one is from 2018, and it's either a standalone or the first in a series. Goodreads lists a second book, but it looks like it might be a companion novel. If you know, I would love to know if this works as a standalone or not. And then there was a stack of ARC copies of this book, which was actually a 2024 release. This is The Loss of the Burying Ground by J. Anderson Coates, who I think is a Seattle local author. This is YA fantasy. It's about 2 teenagers and a shipwreck and some fantasy world politics, I think. It looks like a pretty short, quick read to me based on the size of this copy. And then I have 2 more books that I bought while I was in Seattle, but not at the convention. The first came from Elliott Bay Book Company. They had copies of North Continent Ribbon by Ursula Witcher, and I have heard great things about this. I think it's science fiction. It's from Neon Hemlock, which is a small press that I really like. It is, I think, sort of a collection of interconnected short stories that relate to each other. And then I also bought 1 used book, and that is this lovely hardcover copy of Folklorn by Angela Mi Young Her. This was a release from a few years ago. 2021? Wow, that's longer ago than I thought. I remember being very intrigued by this when this first came out. It says it's a genre-defying, continent-spanning saga of Korean myth, scientific discovery, and the abiding love that binds even the most broken of families. It's about a scientist in the Antarctic and like family stuff and Korean folklore. And then my last 2 books here come from my local little free library. These are the first 2 books I've ever actually taken from this little free library, and I've left a good number of books. So I was thrilled to recently finally see a couple books I actually wanted to take. The first is The Bone Dolls Twin by Lynn Flewelling. I have the first 3 books in her other series that I think is more popular. The one that starts with Luck in the Shadows, that's the Night Runner series. I don't know. I think this is the first in a trilogy. I don't know if it's connected or in the same world. I think I might have once known, and I forgot. But this series I know has like some interesting gender stuff going on in it. I don't know if that's aged well or not. This is from 2001. So I have the first book in each of these two series now. If anyone has opinions on which should be read first, where is the place to start with Lynn Flewelling, let me know. I actually have the first 3 in the Night Runner series here. And then I picked up this Fantasy Masterworks edition of Time and the Gods, which is a collection of Lord Dunsany's short fiction. And I knew when I grabbed this from the Little Free Library that I had another collection of his short fiction at home. And I got home and compared them. This one is the Penguin Classics edition, In the Land of Time and Other Fantasy Tales. It's smaller, it contains fewer stories. This one is more comprehensive. So like rationally, the thing for me to do would be to put the Penguin Classics collection back in the Little Free Library as a swapperoo and keep the Fantasy Masterworks collection. This just seems so daunting to me to read though. This is so many stories, and so many of them are so short. This feels like something that I can't imagine myself actually sitting down and reading the whole thing. Whereas this seems doable. This seems like something I could actually read. So I have a conundrum. I cannot justify keeping both of these, but I don't know which I should keep. Again, I'm asking the internet for opinions. Which of these 2 Lord Dunsany collections is the better one to keep on my shelves? Thank you for your opinions. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. Let me know if you have any other thoughts about any of these books, which ones I should prioritize reading. Anyhow, I hope you're having a very nice day. That is all. Bye for now.